Go. Okay, I will call this meeting to order at 6:37. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up is correspondence, visitors, and public comments. I'm not seeing any unscheduled visitors. Nope, not seeing any, and I don't have any correspondence unless anyone else has. Not seeing any. Okay, moving on to agenda review. I don't have any amendments. Julie?
No, I have an employment matter, but that's on the, it will fall under that item. So yes, that's it.
Okay. So moving right along, we'll move into our consent agenda, and under that is the approval of the meeting minutes from May 18th. I'll accept the motion to approve those minutes. Terry's the first, Toby's the second. Any discussion?
Chris, I was there, but I wasn't tuned in, so I don't know if I should abstain or just say that I was there.
That's up to you.
I would say I approve.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the May 18th meeting minutes, raise your hand.
I do.
Motion carries 6-0. There's just not very many people here. Okay, let's see, moving right along, we're on to Portrait of the Graduate presentation.
Terry, would you like me to introduce Lindsay? So we have a group of folks here, including our student Zeke. I believe Colton will be joining us later. And we have Lindsay Hallman from Up for Learning, and they're an organization that focuses on student voice and agency in schools. They've been helping us facilitate this process. We're not even halfway finished with this process, but we wanted to get a strong start even though we had COVID. And so they're here to share some information with you, but also gather some information from you. So I'm going to kick it off to them. Lindsay, would you like me to open up the presentation? All right, I will do that.
That'd be great. Thank you, Julie. Zeke, how willing are you to be kind of on the fly if Colton's not here?
I'm perfectly fine with that as long as I know what I'm doing. Then
okay.
I'm perfectly fine.
How do you feel? Because we were going to start by talking about the land acknowledgement and share the land acknowledgement from MVU. How do you feel about sharing that piece?
What's it about? Is it like as like the acknowledgement of everyone here?
I was gonna say, Julie, if you advance the next slide, it will give Zeke a little sneak peek. Remember how we started our meetings with a land acknowledgement?
Oh, yeah, I remember that now.
Do you want to talk? I'm happy to do it, or someone else from our team can do it, but do you want to give it a go, Zeke? And then you could read this slide to the board if you feel comfortable.
I can read it, yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to give you a little like intro to why we're doing this?
Sure.
Okay. So over the past, we've been meeting monthly since January. Was that when we began our first retreat? So
yeah, I think that's around when we began.
It was, yeah. And we had 5 retreats. And it felt really important we had 2 youth from MVU who were co-facilitators with us, Lily and Grace. It felt really important to begin our meetings with a land acknowledgement. And where we started was understanding what a land acknowledgement is, because there was many people on our team who had never heard of a land acknowledgement, and there were some that had. And so members of our facilitation team met fairly regularly with Brenda Gagne to learn about the importance and the purpose of the land acknowledgement. And then around the same time, MVU students had developed their own land acknowledgement that is now being read every day with the morning announcements. And that is what Zeke is going to share with you now.
Shall I recite it?
You shall.
Going forward, we will be starting each school day with something called a land acknowledgement. MVU has a long history of honoring our deep ties to the Abenaki people and community with things like the Abenaki mural in A-Pod and the Abenaki flag that flies outside our school. A land acknowledgement is a formal statement that continues this tradition by recognizing the unique and enduring relationship that exists between indigenous people and their land and our communities. Please check your emails for more information. Now, someone will read the land acknowledgement to begin our day.
Thank you, Zeke. So that, just to set you up, that's what was the first announcement at MVU about why they were doing this. And now Zeke's going to read. Are you okay reading the next part, Zeke?
Yes, I am fine.
Okay. Zeke's going to read the land acknowledgement that is being shared every day at MVU.
All right. We acknowledge that we gather as Missisquoi Valley Union Middle and High School on the traditional land of the Wabanaki and Iroquois. Is that correct?
Iroquois.
Peoples past and present. An honor with the gratitude of the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. This calls us to commit to our learning so that we can become better stewards of the land we inhabit.
Thank you, Zeke, for doing that on the fly. I know that wasn't your part that you committed to, and I appreciate it. And so, and you did a beautiful job. Thank you. So that was something that we had committed to right from the beginning, and that's how we started all of our meetings. And one thing that was really exciting to know was, like, simultaneously, there was a group of students at MVU that were also really felt that this was an important start to the day to really ground the students and the staff in a land acknowledgement. Terry or Yeshua, do you want to? I think that's it for our group here, right? And Jen, anybody else want to chime in on that one? Or should we move into our goals and outcomes of our group?
All right, so this is actually me. So I am also on the committee as one of the principals for the Portrait of a Graduate work. And I think what's really important is the why, and the reason why we all gather. And one of the greatest thing about it is that we have students, we have staff members, we have administrators from all of our schools that meet and have met those 5 times. And really our goal is to think, when our students graduate, what is it that we want to see from them? Like, what is a portrait, literally, of what a graduate looks like? And so we're meeting together to gather all of those ideas from all the stakeholders that are involved. And I know, at least for Highgate, there are 3 students that are on it. That's Colton Godin, who's in 6th grade, Riley Tatro in 5th grade, and Janessa Yates, that's in 6th grade. And Craig Aylward is serving on that committee as well. So it's nice, these leadership groups that are comprised of staff and students coming together and really talking about this vision. And Portrait Up for Learning has done several different activities with us to kind of understand what that looks like. And we're currently at the stage of gathering ideas from different groups. And that involves communities, and in our community, who do we want represented to give us ideas of what this looks like, within adults that are working in our buildings and students that are learning in our buildings. And so it's combining all of our ideas to think of, what will this look like in MVSD? And certainly I'm serving as the principal of Highgate, but also as a Swanton resident actually really excites me as well, because I think the idea of thinking about all of our towns and what we're doing together to help think of the end result of our students going through the system is really exciting for me. So I've certainly really enjoyed the journey, so to speak, with everybody else. But one thing I think that's been really powerful that I think a lot of the adults can say is how much of a voice this is giving our students. And they are at the table alongside us, and it's just amazing to see all their incredible ideas. You can go to the next slide, Julie.
Well, I have a note from Lindsay in the chat that she wanted to do introductions with the video.
We got all excited.
We did.
About
We
our
just
land
jumped right in.
acknowledgement. And we're not going to watch the video, but I wanted to share that video as an introduction to the whole team. But I figured it might be nice if we more formally introduced ourselves. So Zeke, do you want to start and introduce who you are and where you attend school and why you're on this team?
Sure.
Thank you.
So, I am Zeke, short for Ezekiel. I go to Swanton Elementary School, and I came to this team to help support children's voices so that their ideas can be sent out to the world, because who knows, one child's idea could impact thousands.
Thank you so much, Zeke. Terry, can I pass it to you to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Terry O'Shea, and you all know that I serve on the board with you all. And I'm part of this team because I think it's wonderful to try and integrate all these different voices and really have a true vision of what we and our graduates all find important for when they graduate. And it's been a great group to work with.
And also on our team, well, you met Yeshua, but probably you re-met him. This is our community. We're the community research team. And Jen is also a member of our team. And then myself, my name is Lindsay Hallman. I'm the executive director of Up for Learning. We're a nonprofit based in Vermont, and we work with schools across the state, just like Julie said, on infusing student voice into all aspects of the educational experience. So we feel really grateful to be partnering with MVSD on this project. It's been a tremendous team. And our small little subgroup that's here tonight is just 1/3 of our team who has been meeting regularly since January. So thank you for letting me pause that. I will be dropping some items in the chat throughout our presentation, and hopefully those items can be saved or bookmarked somewhere. We do have a storytelling component to our work, and this is the second installment. The first one was the vision, where our two youth facilitators, Grace and Lily from MVU, interviewed Julie about the vision of this project. The one that I put in the chat is an introduction to the members of our team. So if you're curious about who's on this team and why, you can see the whole team in that video. Sorry, now we can go back to the slideshow.
Oh, good, Lindsay. Thanks for doing that. And this is my next slide, but really I've kind of already talked about it in the previous slide. It's really just about where it's a lot of youth voice and youth adult partnership is really at the heart of the work. And I truly mean it when kids' voices are just as powerful as adults in this group. And one of the things we read was a poem, and one of the lines that a lot of people, it stuck out to them, was about amplifying youth voice. And so we're really making sure they're at the table and they're being heard, and we're helping them, as I said, amplify and make it even stronger. And of course, that's including all stakeholders as well.
Thank you. So we thought really briefly, because we're going to do this really like a micro version of this, we wanted to give you all the experience of the essence of the why behind Youth Adult Partnership, why this work is being, we have these monthly meetings with, about 30 people on Zoom, and it's youth and adults sharing power, responsibility, and decision-making. And we're going to take you through a really short exercise before we get into our research with you all. So basically, the purposes of this short exercise is just to understand the feelings that come with the human desire to feel valued and have a sense that you matter in the world, that it's universal and it's cross-generational, no matter how old you are. And it's the essence of the work that I do with my organization around youth adult partnership, and it's the essence of the work that we're doing together with the Portrait of a Graduate team. And it is a paradigm shift. So we spent a lot of time really talking about what the why and the what, because youth adult partnership is not something that is a mental model that we are used to. So it really requires time thinking about it, working together in a multi-generation, cross-generational group to really start to understand the power of it. So we can go to the next slide, Julie. And we're going to do this really briefly. And you can click it. I think it's like there you go. And maybe one more time. If you click one more time, I don't know why it has all those different pieces of it. Thank you. So just really briefly, think of a time in your life, anytime. Maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was today, maybe it was 10 years ago, where a decision was being made that would directly impact you, but you were not asked for your input. And you knew you had some important information to share about the decision, but there was never an opportunity for you to contribute. And therefore, the action was being done to or for you, but definitely not with you. You don't need to write it down, but just spend some time just thinking, a few seconds here, about that experience. And then maybe either in the chat or aloud, if you feel comfortable unmuting, just name some of the feelings that were provoked for you in that situation. How did it feel when you were not asked about your input and it was a decision that directly impacted you? Thank you, Julie. Powerless.
Abandoned.
Thank you. Frustrating, weak, undervalued, frustrated. Thank you for sharing those. And you can keep sharing if you'd like or unmute.
Can I ask something? I just wanted to
Sure.
share when I did this, and I know you all haven't had as much time to think about it, but we did this like 5 minutes in groups and partners. And I remember thinking, when I started thinking about it, I went back to my childhood. And when I was a youth is what really came up for these feelings. But then when I did just surface, when I was an adult, it was more irritation. But when I went back thinking of family stuff, it was more of a powerless, like didn't matter. I wasn't feeling involved or any of that kind of stuff. So I wondered if any of you all felt any of that when you were going through this.
Terry,
It's interesting you say that. Oh,
No.
interesting you say that, Terry. Interesting you say that because my first word was sad. And that I think goes back to more childhood feeling of not having a say.
Thank you, Wendy. When no one said anything, I was starting to think, well, you guys all had great childhoods. I guess I had. Thank you. Not that you didn't, just, certain times.
Yeah, I see a lot. And thank you, Zeke. Invisible and sad and silent, dismissed. So, if we think about the typical day for a young person when they're, attending school 6 or 7 hours a day, these are not the feelings that we want them to feel, right? And adults, we don't want to feel that way in our work and our lives either. We want to feel the opposite of those. So, Julie, if you go to the next slide. As a team, what we did was then we flipped the question. Okay, so think of an example when you did have a role in decision making. How did you feel? And this is really the essence of youth adult partnership. These were all the words that people shared. Included, empowered, happy, valued, appreciated, joy, calm, validated, involved, competent, controlled, loved, peaceful. I had a voice. I mean, we can go on and on. Those are the words that we want people to feel, both youth and adults, every day in their work and in their lives. So that is where we start as a group to really get at the essence of youth adult partnership and why student voice, youth voice is so imperative, especially in the educational world where the primary stakeholder of education are youth. So we want to be ensuring that instead of having education being done to and for young people, that it's really done in partnership with one another.
Yeah, and this is kind of the next step of what's our process in the entirety of the portrait of graduate work we're doing for MVSD schools. And of course, I'm not going to read all these different steps, but we just recently kind of analyzed where do we think we are currently within our subcommittees and the work that we're doing. And we certainly find ourselves, I think even my group said, we're a 5.5. So we're at the place of we're conducting research, we're trying to engage the community, but we're not quite ready for 6. And to kind of give you the example, as Lindsay mentioned, we are the community group, and different stakeholders we're trying to reach out to are business owners, some of our representatives in our legislature, and the Abenaki community. And that Abenaki community was certainly identified as one that we wanted to contact. And I believe it was Terry and myself had some different folks in the Abenaki community we wanted to reach out to. And we certainly learned a lot by doing that. And one thing we learned was inviting them to a Zoom call or to a Google Meet is not something culturally for them is, responsive. And so I was able to speak with Mr. Reeder, who's from Highgate, who is going to kind of act as our liaison between our community group and the Abenaki Tribal Council, which that's called a broker is the terminology he used for me. And so we'll use him to kind of gauge the Abenaki community, meet with him, talk about our plan, and kind of make that happen so that we're bringing our ideas to them in a way that makes them feel respected. And that way we can gain their ideas. But since we learned that's not going to happen through the computer, our group kind of just paused and said, once, things are fairly back to normal and we can actually sit in person and have a conversation, that will be a more inviting way for us to make that connection. Because if you don't make that connection right off the bat, of course, our relationship's not going to be successful. So we certainly have paused for the moment, which is why we're at 5.5.
Thank you. Yeah. And this is the process that we're using. It's called Youth Participatory Action Research. So, the primary piece is using data to really to define what this portrait of the graduate is. And this data comes from, just like you heard, from the whole community. And at step 2, you can see developing a critical awareness. This is really an important step because we need to understand who is sharing their voices and who is not. How do we engage those that we don't often hear from? So we are the community group. There's actually 3 research groups. There was the youth in schools, the adult in schools, and then our group, which is the community group. The youth in schools and the adult in schools, they have a great, they've done their great deal of data collection as well, just starting to collect some initial data. But our group is working beyond the school walls to really engage other members of the community, particularly those that don't often come to the table. So we're trying to figure out how can we get to their place to engage them in conversation in a variety of ways. So we'll share that with you in a little bit as well. So this is what we call our trail map, and it's not linear. We're constantly kind of cycling back to different pieces. Like we don't just build relationships and then move on. We spent a lot of time as a team building relationships, and we're going to keep doing that. And there's always issues and questions that are coming up, but we really are, I would say all of our groups are kind of in that 5.5 stage where we've collected some initial data and we're starting to really begin to understand what else do we need. So we can go to the next slide, and this, Zeke, might be where you, one thing before Zeke. So these are the 3 groups we identified. Youth in schools, who do we need to talk to? The adults in schools, who are all the different adults in schools, and then the community. So we did a brainstorming session on our teams of who are all those people. And if you were able to open this up, you would see there's a very, very long list of all those people there, all the different groups. All right, Julie. So Zeke, how do you feel about taking this group through SOAR stories?
I think I could do that.
Great. I'm happy to, help you along the way too.
All right.
Okay. Do you remember how we did it?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, one of my communities and schools' greatest strengths is pretty much including. There are many activities that everyone's included in. Some town hall meetings include many people too. And
Those are great examples, Zeke,
Yeah.
of when we went through it, what you came up with for some of the things we're really proud of. So if we were in a group online, let's say, we'd be sharing this. And so maybe we could ask the board members what they think the biggest strength is. Would that work, Zeke?
yeah,
Do you want to do it with them verbally? Since there's only 6 of us, might as well. And
Mhm.
Lindsay said she'd take notes.
I'm on it.
All right. So Zeke, you go ahead and facilitate asking the board members, but I can help you because you might not know which people are board members.
asking them if what?
Oh, asking the board members to tell you. And maybe we should just sit back and make sure they know who they are. They can share with us what they think the greatest strengths of our school's community are.
So
So
What-
let's you and I sit back and let them say, and they'll just jump in, each of them, right? Board members?
Yeah, Zeke and Terry. Steve, I'm on the board. And I do like the community activities that they do have out there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Steve. What'd you say?
There's always something seems like going on, whether it's a queue or just an open house at a school. I think that's very important that people be able to basically you open your doors and they can come in and see. We have to basically kind of set it up. The invitation to do that, I think, has always been there. The graduations are always a big deal around for small towns, and community involvement comes from those different kind of
That's awesome.
like-
Thanks, Steve. Zeke,
Was
let's
not-
get the next person, huh?
The parade in Highgate was only about 25 minutes long, but there sure was a lot of people here.
Ah, nice.
So,
So-
Tobias McGuire, are you a board member?
Yeah, I think he said Tobias McGuire, board member. That's
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
So one of my my view of one of the greatest strengths is, and I feel it resonates at least through the MVU community, is that the faculty and staff are really they really have grabbed on to the idea of relationships with their students. I noticed that from a variety of different perspectives, a parent, board member, but I most noticeably noticed it as an assistant coach recently. And it just is great throughout the faculty and staff to see that. There was a girl on the team that was new to the school, and she just kept saying she loved it here, and that you could see she was just really talking about the relationships that the teachers really worked on. You could just tell. So that's what I think the greatest strength of MVU is. I'm a little bit more removed from the elementary schools now, so maybe someone else can comment there. But I did notice it at MVU.
All right, next up, Yeshua Pastina, I think.
You nailed my name, but I am not a board member.
Dang it.
Maybe the board members could raise their hand for you, Zeke.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Pretty good idea.
Oh, I see Joanne and Peter.
Peter Magnet or Magnat?
No, you had it. Very good. So, community's greatest strength, schools and community's greatest strength. And I know here in Franklin, it's always been, community has been a big part of the school. And I've also seen it in MVU as the schools come together. The extracurricular activities are always well attended, along with music. Obviously, a lot of this has taken a back seat because of COVID, so that has hurt some of the community events greatly. But even before that, one thing I was noticing that MVU was doing was like having science fair nights and things like that. And it was really bringing the community together, not just the parents, but also businesses and others that came in to judge and see the students and what's going on in the school. So I thought that was a great strength for our schools and communities to bring together.
All right. Well, next up we have.
I believe Joanne had her hand up, Zeke.
All right, Joanne.
Hi, Zeke. Well, I think Peter kind of took a little bit of mine. I'm definitely going to go with the community. We come from a small town, and that is not taking anything away from Highgate or Swanton. But just like we come together, and I'm sure Highgate does the same, and I'm sure Swanton does the same. But when you come from a small town, and it would be easy for nitpicking to happen because everybody knows everybody, but it doesn't matter, age. Everybody helps everybody out, and I just think that's amazing, and it's great. And just because I have the floor, and I don't know who's left for board, I know our board chair has not gone yet, and so it's really important for him to go. But I just wanted to just quickly go down to, hopes and dreams for the MVSD community. And I guess it would be that also, that no matter what town students are from, that they all work together, or they all share together. If we have strengths in certain schools, that those strengths can be carried on to other schools, or if we have students that are interested in helping in other schools, because this student is strong with this, and maybe she or he could help a group of kids. I just, that would be one of my dreams for the school community.
All right. Well, next up, who else had raised their hand?
We've got Chris needs to go.
Oh yeah, Chris.
Okay. A lot of great answers already. One thing that I've been on the board for a while, and one thing I've gotten to witness through this pandemic is how everyone from faculty to community to parents to even outside the community, how people pulled together through this pandemic and tried to make the transitions that we've had to do for the children as smooth as possible. Trying to keep their well-being at the forefront of decisions. And it's been a pleasure to watch, because something like this could have tore everybody apart, but it's done quite the opposite. I feel like all three towns have pulled together, and that gives, to build on what Joanne said, gives me a lot of hope for the merged board or more merged district to work together like that in the future.
All right. Now,
Did we get all the board members for that first question? I'm seeing a yes from Julie. Okay, so Zeke, we're going to take them into the, so this is what it's the SOAR, just to go back real quick. You can probably guess what the S is, strengths, that's what we just did. Now we're going to go into opportunities, which is what is and Zeke will read you the question in just a moment. And then Zeke, you can read the question for opportunities or challenges, and then kind of just go through our board members again. The A is our aspirations, hopes and dreams, and the R is going to be our results. So we'll take you through each one. And Zeke, you want to read them the next question and then
sure.
Call on the board members? Great.
Now, What is the greatest challenge for your schools, community that provides an opportunity for change?
This is
Yep.
Steve. I went last time. I'll go first again.
Okay.
Opportunity change. We have. I've been on the board going on 12 years, and I think that we have struggled in the past. And I'm going to go right to the results. But I think that our issues were getting the information out to the community as to where we stood as schools and budgets and changes in the buildings and so on. But I think in the last couple of years, especially with the merge, that I think we've really taken that on as a priority, and people just need to watch that, pay attention, and if they have questions, they should come by the meetings.
All right, next up, we have Chris Shepard.
I would agree with Steve what he said. That was kind of what I was thinking. But another part of it is one of our greatest challenges is to move forward as a merged district, but not lose each individual town's identity, and to respect each town's identity. And that trickles all the way down to the students once they go to the high school and stuff. I went to high school at MVU, and it was a challenge then, and I feel like it's still a challenge now.
Now, Peer Magnet. Or Magnet.
Thank you, Zeke. I think one of our challenges is that reaching all of our students, making sure that all our students are getting the opportunities that they deserve. It doesn't mean that every student is going to go to college. It's a lofty goal, and it would be nice to see more. But we have students that we should be reaching for opportunities that they, if it's in the trades or something that will give them opportunities to succeed in the future, and give them, when they leave high school, that they're ready for the world and moving on and having the skills that they need to do that.
Sorry, technical difficulties for a second. I had accidentally highlighted the link, and when I tried to hit the mic shortcut, it opened up my bookmarks thing. Let's just fix this. Okay. Next up, Joanne.
Thank you, Zeke. So, I would agree. I can't really come up with my own personal answer, but communication is always huge, and it's no matter whether you're communicating to students, getting the information out to students for what's available education wise, or whether we're trying to get the information out to the community or the businesses, and when you're trying to propose a budget, like it all really comes down to how it's communicated to the others. No one really likes change. We all have our personal reason for wanting to change something or not wanting to change it. And it's just, being able to communicate it, and just, being comfortable with having your opinions about the change, and educating people on the change.
All right, next we have Tobias Maguire.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I don't know. There's so many challenges, I think, that our schools face. I wanted to say more globally, a declining student enrollment across the state, which is going to affect all schools as far as funding. I don't know if that's the greatest, but one thing I've constantly been concerned with is, the world is competitive, and I constantly worry that are we getting our kids ready for the very real reality of competition. So in all aspects of life, and that's kind of hard with, I remember my first response was building relationships. So there's kind of like, there doesn't have to be, but sometimes there's a tension there because the world's a competitive place, and sometimes we short step relationships because of the competition. So anyway, I'm mumbling here. The greatest challenge, I don't know. I think I want to say getting our students ready for the competitive reality of the world once they leave our building.
All right.
Can I add something before we move on to the next part on the challenge? Because I want to represent a couple of the board members that aren't here. And I know one of them, I'm going to speak for myself when I say this, but I would imagine that he would agree with me. And that is that I'd like to see us have higher academic results. Like, I really would like to see us do better. And I think that doing better gives kids more pride, because I'd really like to see pride and academic results come up, because I think our kids are really great. And I'm not sure that our academics always show that on the tests. So I would like to see that go up.
Understandable. Next up, we have, who else is a board member that hasn't been covered yet?
I'm not sure if we heard from Joanne yet.
I
Did
think
we?
are.
Oh, we
Yeah.
did. Okay, sorry. I'm taking notes. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the screen. Sorry. Did we get everyone on that round?
Yes, you did.
Oh, wow. Okay, amazing, Zeke. We're ready to go to the next one.
All right. Now the next one is, I need to zoom in.
This one.
What is a hope or dream for the MVSD community? Now, let's do the one that we did. Let's do the first one that we did last time.
Steve.
That was me, Steve. What's the hope for the community? MVSD community?
Yes.
Wow. I kind of have to bounce off of Terry on that one. I like what she said. Bringing the academics up and just feeling, and the preparedness, like Toby said, as far as what's going to happen next. The hope is just that, I don't know, stronger is better.
Next, we have Shepard.
Thanks, Zeke. This is kind of my hope for the entire society, not just the MVSD community, but I truly wish and hope that everyone could learn and use more empathy in everyday decisions. I think sometimes that would go a long way.
All right, now. Oh, Terry, were you muted while you were speaking, or were you intentionally muted?
I am so sorry. What I was trying to say, Zeke, thank you, was I wondered if we wanted to combine, for the sake of time, the hope and what it would look like, the A and the R. I don't know if Lindsay would say no. I'm just thinking time-wise.
Oh, no, I would not say no. I think that's a wonderful idea. So maybe we could go back to Steve and then go back to Chris and then go from there. So we got your hopes and dreams. So then if your hopes and dreams were realized in 5 years, what would the results be? What would it look like? How would we know that your hopes and dreams had actually come true?
All right, well, let's do it.
Okay. Well, I think I think there'd be more students staying through school. I really don't. I hate seeing people leaving school. I think it's just getting through it. I think I don't know. My hope is that they get themselves more prepared. And it's not all about us dragging them through the school, but I think the engagement thing is coming through to me on that. So I don't know. I just hope that the want to be there and the pride to be there, I think that would be what I'd wish for.
It's great, Steve. It's great, Steve.
Building on that, I agree. Because I too, one of my hopes and dreams is that our academic performance goes up a little bit, because that's just going to in 5 years, going to provide a lot more opportunities for our students, whether it's in this area or even if they move away. But it just means they can have, with any luck, a better life, which is my hope for my children. And I mean, I hope they do greater than I did. And if that means I was a successful parent. And then I just feel like empathy is one of those things that it's easy to say everybody should have, but it's hard to do. I work on it daily, just trying to understand somebody else's point of view. Never walked in their shoes, so just try to understand their point of view. And I've learned a lot of that from being on the board. So I hope everyone else can learn it too.
All right, next up is Joanne, and then Peter after her.
Thank you, Zeke. You let me go before Peter because Peter takes my ideas. So I'm going to stick to my hope and dream for the MVSD community of, I'm going to touch on Steve a little bit with the engagement. And I would like it to be a community. I would like to see schools engaging with each other. And then, and of course, how, to realize our hopes and dreams in the next 5 years. I think what I'd like to say about that on academics is not just, scoring on paper, not just testing that we see on paper. I mean, we see schools now doing away with some of the, SAT scores aren't, quite the top priority, but just having students have the confidence to take those classes and, realizing that, I mean, now the opportunity is there for college classes when you're in high school. And and we let so many of these college classes go unused. And it's heart-wrenching, because I think whether you choose to go to college or not go to college, at least try it, give it a shot. They're free. And they're not being used, by our students. And that's just that makes me sad. So I would love to see all of those vouchers, in our high schools be used. And I think that it needs to start at a younger age. Like we need to start talking to, the elementary students, the middle schoolers about what are your dreams. Going to college, it's important, which goes back to what Toby said. It's a competitive world out there, and it's not all, butterflies and sunshine. So we do need to, it's unfortunate, like sometimes things do change and we don't have a say about it, but it's okay. Just building strength, building confidence in our kids, our students, just, I guess I'm just going to end on that note and see what Peter has to say.
Okay. Ditto what Joanne said. No. So to follow up with what I said before about all our kids having the opportunities that they need and deserve to have the skills that when they graduate, that they can pursue a life and the kind of work that they would like to do, and they have the skills to pursue that. Meaning whether they go to a college or trade school or whatever it is, that we have given them those opportunities. And not only have we given them those opportunities, we've given them the opportunities in schools that are the right sized. We have enough room for all our students, and they're breathing clean air, and they're getting healthy meals, and they are being provided for, maybe not only in school, but in other areas, for those that need it. And what is that going to look like? It's going to look amazing, because you're going to see kids that are really happy to go to school. You're going to see kids that are excited about learning. You're going to see a community that, you think they support us now. Just amazing how much they would support us if this all came together. And once that is seen, the communities around us are going to say, wow, what are they doing in MVSD? I want to go and live there. I want my kids to be in that type of community and environment that's all inclusive and wants to see success in our children.
All right. Are there any more members that we haven't covered yet?
I didn't go, but I'll be quick. I liked a lot what Peter said. So my hope and dream for the MVSD community is that we can provide a comparable product. By comparable, I mean to other public schools throughout the state. I think with that's my hope, is that we can somehow pull together a comparable experience, meaning facilities for students, but also for our staff, because retention has always been a challenge for us. But if we can somehow tie that all together, and like what Peter said, in 5 years, what will happen is we'll have teachers not looking to go to anywhere else, students not wanting to go to other schools, and maybe students using Act 129 choice to come to MVU rather than other schools, that neighboring schools or choice towns coming here. That would be a great thing to see.
All right. Well,
Wonderful. Zeke, I think we did it on the stories there. You did a great job working us through that. And I just want to point out, thank you, Zeke, so much. For anybody who's not a board member who's here this evening and has not ever participated in our work, there's a link to something called a Jamboard. And if you don't know what a Jamboard is, don't worry. You don't have to use it. But if anybody wants to add their own thoughts around strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results, we'd love to gather more data. So what we just did was we gathered data from one of our important stakeholders here, the board. And so we're going to take all that. I just took copious notes. I would say the same thing. It was really wonderful. I'm seeing all these great comments here, like feeling very thankful to be serving MVSD, very inspiring. Great to hear everyone's ideas and dreams for our school and our children. Awesome job, Zeke. Thank you. I agree. I felt very inspired listening to you all speak about your hopes and dreams, and so clearly about the results you want to see. I think this was like a model group as far as how you can clearly say, this is what I would see in 5 years. So really beautiful data for us that we can take back. What we'll do as a community group is we'll look at all of our data that we collect, and from that, themes will emerge. And those themes are really going to be what helps us develop the portrait of a graduate, ultimately. So I think just next, we were just going to share about what is next for our group, right? Our survey, how you could support us. Anybody from our group want to take that on?
Yeah, I can certainly speak on this.
Thank you.
I already spoke kind of a little bit what we're thinking about the community voices wise anyway. So yeah, we're going to kind of reconvene in the fall with our larger group coming together, and each subcommittee will kind of make a plan of, you know, what's happening next, especially for the community group, getting more ideas from those community stakeholders that we've not been able to do so quite yet. And we will continue throughout the next school year to kind of create a final version of what MVSD Portrait of a Graduate will look like.
Excellent. And I just popped in the chat a link to a survey. Oh, go for it, Terry. Thank you.
Actually, I just wanted to, I think some of our board members have already seen that survey and thought it was great, which is wonderful. And so that survey is a link and we need to start sharing it. But as Zeke and Colton told us, not everybody does the surveys. So we're going to do some interviews and focus groups, or with some focus groups, but we're also thinking of standing outside of Hannaford's or standing outside of a church maybe, you know, some Sunday to ask people about these SOAR questions. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, so coming soon, post-pandemic, we'll be able to actually get together and, you know, I think we shared about all of our different hopes for how we can engage the community in more dialogue. But the survey, if you have people in your community or different networks or groups that you can share it with, we would love for it to be shared far and wide throughout the MVSD community. The more input we have, the better. And I just want to point out, Zeke, that you're getting a lot of love in the chat. Wendy said you're a very skilled facilitator. And yes, thank you to the board for sharing your SOAR ideas. This was really important for us to gather your thoughts and feelings. And we have many students that are involved, like Zeke, and we're hoping to have more involved next year as well. And just like you heard from Zeke, he said it beautifully about why he joined the team. And it's really, really important that more youth have these types of opportunities. I also just wanted to say, I shared in the chat before we wrap up, it's a document. It's a pretty lengthy document. It's still a work in progress. But it shows our whole journey this year, all the different pieces that we did together, and then the different groups and the data they've collected so far. So you'll see a sampling from all the different groups of their data. And what's not there yet is an analysis of our initial data. So that's going to be the next step, where we take all three research groups and look at their data and come up with some big themes and ideas that are coming forth. So that would be one of the next steps. But that is our community group. Anything else from the community group? Zeke, any final words?
Thank you for all the love in the chat. I honestly did not expect half this entire group to start randomly complimenting me. Thank you.
Thank you. We should all be complimented, right?
Mm-hmm.
You showed up and
Agreed.
you did, thank you for being here.
Did a great
Yes.
job.
Did a great job. You should be complimented for just coming here, even if you didn't participate too much. At least you came and took the time.
Thank you, Zeke. I just wanted to say thank you to the team, because they did spend time putting that together, and Yashua and Zeke and Lindsay and the other members. So thank you all very much. I think it really helped. I have a feeling the board feels that way too. So thanks.
I have just put all of the links that are in the chat in a document in your board
Wonderful.
folder. So we can make sure you can click on those and look at the video. It is on the website. One of the things I enjoy about Lindsay and her team is how comprehensive they are. So they think about how we can communicate this work to the broader community, as well as get their input. And the same with our students. And there's some really great pictures that some of our youngest students did about their hopes and dreams. So I'll make sure that we share some of that data with you as well. So it just makes you smile. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank
Thank
you. And
you.
I just was going to say we're missing tonight Colton, who you already heard about. He was a big part in planning this presentation. And Nicole Draper has been an essential member of our community team too, from is it Parks and Rec. And I think she's just been super busy with gearing up for summer work, but she's been a big part of our team. So our whole team is really a multi-stakeholder group, and it's been a pleasure to partner with you all. So thank you for having us here tonight.
Well, and I forgot we had Jen join us too. Not Jen DeSurger, but another Jen too. I can't think of her last name, from Swanton. She's the
virtual learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen Hines.
Jen Hines.
Jen Hines.
It used to be
Thank you.
Sullivan. I don't know. Yeah, thank you. Can't keep up.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, and especially Zeke. You did a great job. You can have my job. You run the meeting better than I do. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much. Any questions or anything for the presentation that we haven't already covered?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I'm not as good at running as you guy. And yet I am still run.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Thank you again for presenting, and we'll move on to let's see, administrative reports. And first up is MVU administration updates.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be pinch hitting tonight. As you know, Dan is down in Rutland today, and hopefully his daughter came home with a win. Your board packet, you will have found the administrator's report for tonight. I just want to point out a couple of things that are there. It doesn't matter whether it's your first year or your 40th year. The end of every school year is an extremely busy one with all kinds of things going on, even during a pandemic. There's no break in the action. A couple of things to bring to your attention, though. Again, the end of the year activities that you see identified there at the top of the first page. Summer meals. The vaccination clinic was held last week in the gymnasium on the 26th. I believe there were upwards of around 160 to 170 people from the community and the school who took advantage of the opportunity. There'll be a follow-up clinic on June the 16th. So we're in good shape there. On May the 20th, and I think a couple of board members, I know Terry was there, and I believe Don Collins as well. On May 20th, had an opportunity to attend the flag raising for the Black Lives Matter flag in a small ceremony that was held in the front of the main school entrance on that day. The MVU STEM Fair results, obviously many thanks to Director, Program Coordinator Rich Ballard and the MVU Science Department for their work in organizing and making this all happen. MVU also had 2 students from the local fair go on and be recognized at the state level, and they are Eleanor McGuire. Congratulations, Toby. And Henry Tanner. Were recognized for their achievements and their projects at the state level. And on the next to last page, you can see the top winners for MVU and the projects that they designed and shared, both at the local and at the state level. So a lot going on. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to try and answer them for you. Jen, feel free to add anything that I might have forgotten.
I would add that on Wednesday, 16th, we are planning a day of professional learning for teachers. I have based on be out in the community, learning more about our community. Jake Marnie is going to do a local history bus tour. We're going to have to Franklin in the morning and go to the Society and Telephone Company, and then the Swanton Historical Society afternoon. That's one of the choices. Teachers could also choose to participate in some local grave puddings or cleaning and unique work. We're going to take the group out to the wildlife refuge and we're partnering with the Acknowledgement community to do a cultural competency training, and we've been going to meet a woodworking activity in the afternoon. So we're excited to get our teachers into the community and really thinking about how place-based education needs to be and really connects our students back to their homes and their community.
I'm not, I think Jen's done. That was pretty broke up. I didn't hear much of it, to be honest with you.
I thought it was just me.
No, it's tough connection.
Somebody has any sessions open?
I know that Jen was speaking about having teachers go out in the community and learn more about the 3 towns. And I think you said that it was going to be on the 16th. Yes. So maybe that's something that she can share in writing to me in an email, and we can get that out to everybody. Because it's a very interesting and exciting opportunity for our teachers to be more connected to the broader community and get a sense of the history. And I believe Jason Barney is going to be a big part of that. And Jen's breaking up.
Okay. Any questions or comments for MVU administration? Seeing none, thank you. We can move on to the superintendent update newsletter. And just one quick note before Julie starts, Devin Pierrett, this is for you. Devin just joined us at 7:44.
Hi, everyone.
So I wanted to make sure that you saw a few things in our central office newsletter. One, I wanted to just give a shout out to those folks that are listed there that are longtime employees that are retiring at the end of the year. We didn't really have any teachers that are retiring this year, but we have Bonnie Godin, a para from Swanton Elementary, Mary Shepard, a para from MVU, Sue Drown, a longtime custodian at Highgate School, Lori Kilbury, an MVU middle school admin assistant, Julie Rivers, the district Medicaid assistant, and Pierrette Bouchard, of course, executive assistant to the superintendent, and then Dina Sainamore retiring. Also, of course, Chris Shepard will be leaving at the end of the year to go to North Carolina. So I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to celebrate.
Nope, not me. It'll be Chris.
Chris Palmer. Did I say
Palmer.
Chris Shepard? Oh, for heaven's sakes. Don't go anywhere. I apologize.
Don't spread rumors that I'm moving.
And also, I had some pictures there of some celebrations. I was happy to go to the National Arts Honor Society celebration that was indoors. It was so exciting. I shared with you some of our preliminary exit data around teachers. Bonnie and I put together a survey, and she has reached out to folks, even if they wanted to give her a call as well. But we wanted to make sure we had some good data. We don't have as many teachers leaving this year, I'm knocking on wood, as we have in some other years. But, you know, as the board had asked, and we thought it was a really good opportunity to get some information about the reasons why people leave. The main thing that I wanted to share with you all and make sure that I have board's understanding of this, we do expect the governor to end the state of emergency maybe this week. And yet our students are not 80% vaccinated. Our students are, especially in the elementary schools, are in our care, and the recommendation from the Department of Health and the Agency of Education is that for our last 2 weeks of school, whether mask mandates disappear or not, our schools are going to continue with our practices through the rest of the school year. So I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that. I'll be sending something out to our community and staff as soon as that happens, so that people understand that it's only a few weeks left. We want to make sure that our students and staff are protected, and we're following the very strong recommendations of Dr. Mark Levine and Dan French around schools maintaining this procedure. And that would include staff, and everyone that works in a school would still be wearing masks and will still be following distancing guidelines. The preliminary guidance we have for next year is that we will not have a need for any masks. We will not need physical distancing, spacing, or, unless something changes. It is our expectation that school will be back to typical routines. But it's 2 weeks, so we wanted to make sure that we'll be following that recommendation and keeping students and staff safe. I know that everywhere I go, we all have our masks and we're not sure whether we wear it or don't wear it, but I think it's we're all going through this transition together, but we'll come out the other side, and I think things will feel a lot more of a routine, a typical routine, when we come back in August. And we have other updates in there, basically about things that are happening over the summer. And I wanted to make sure you had a chance to look at those too. But that's all that I have for tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. And under new business, first up is an employee matter, which may be a possibility for finding for executive session. And then after that is a policy review update.
Okay, I was muted. You caught me again. The employee matter is a request for a student to, an employee to be released from her contract, which I support, and we can discuss that in executive session. And we have the policy review question. We had a request from a board member. We also had requests from administration for some different policies. And I wanted to make sure that you are aware of what my plan is in the upcoming school year for policies and procedures. So I had a plan this year, but COVID, something had to go, and this was sort of it, particularly because many of our administrative team meetings where we would be discussing policies and reviewing them were taken up with logistics of coming back to school and planning things. And so it was not something that was a priority this year, but it is on my list to be a priority, and it will be a priority next year. So what I expect to do is to have take all of the recommended, we have all our required policies, and we're going to review those. Purette's already been working on reviewing those to make sure we have procedures for each of those. But next up would be the recommended policies or any other policies that somebody has brought forward. And we will prioritize those as an administrative team and as a board. And then we will pick some to work on first and move through those. And what we typically do is we find, we use the model policy manual, we review other benchmarks. The administrative team looks at them in small groups and together has discussions, since they're the ones implementing the policies. And they work with us on a draft, which we bring to the board. And then the board works on it as a draft and says, nope, go back and change some things. And we work through that process until we're ready and we review. With the required policy, there's less back and forth because so many of them are scripted out with legal citations for absolutely everything. You're talking about sometimes federal law. So with the required policy, the recommended policies, there's a lot more discretion with some of them about what it looks like. So it's a very good feedback loop process. And we're going to put something in place so that it doesn't all just have to happen at meetings, but that we'll have a continuous feedback loop as we're working through a policy or two at a time. So that is the update I wanted to give you. That's something that is my goal for next year.
Any questions or comments for policy review updates? Toby.
Yeah. I just think that this really speaks to our values as a board. And, you know, I know in our committee with the subcommittee I'm on, I looked at our policies compared to neighboring community schools, and we're significantly lower in the number of policies we have. So my personal feeling is I would like this prioritized because it's really fundamental in evaluation of the administration on how they're carrying out policies. But if there aren't policies in place, it's very hard for us to do that component as well. You know, so I thank Julie for working this in. But I would also remind us that I don't know how long it took for the flagpole policy, but that was pretty quick. It seemed like, you know, so I don't think, I think it's important to have, to vet these policies, but I don't think it's something that should drag out for, you know, I think it can be done. It's just a matter of prioritizing. And as far as a board, I would hope that we'd want to get this prioritized because that's what boards do. And we really need that policy in place because it will help us with everything else falls in place with the policies. So that's just my comment right now.
And I completely agree with that comment.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on again. Let's see, we're on to old business now. And first up is check warrants.
Yes, and I have those. Check warrants are dated for May 2021. Accounts payable, they totaled $741,138.27. Payroll checks, $42,953.79. Payroll other disbursements, $1,518,892.91. Payroll deductions, $157,750.04. Bringing a total to $2,460,735.01.
So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to accept check warrants as read. Terry's a first.
I'll second.
Devin's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor. Oh, Terry.
Yeah, I just had a question. Devin and I are both on the committee that checks finance stuff. Should we be the ones not to, I mean, should someone else be the ones that are making first and seconds? No, it's okay.
No, it's fine.
Sorry, I'm echoing.
Terry, I had the same question. Reading them, I don't know if I should be voting on them or not, so that's why I kind of backed down a little bit.
No, it's absolutely fine. because you're just bringing the information forward to the board and then you're moving the motion forward. It doesn't affect whether our votes are or anything like that. You're just moving it to get it so we can have a discussion and vote on it. Peter?
I'm a lot more confident voting for it when I see that the budget committee is bringing it up and recommending that we approve it.
Agreed. Okay, are we ready to vote? Appears to be. So everybody in favor of accepting check warrants as read, raise your hand.
I do.
Motion carries 7-0. Okay, financial report.
Okay, so I did include a financial report in the shared drive as well as some notes on just areas to highlight as far as revenues and expenditures. I won't take a lot of time since we still are projecting a pretty hefty carryover, but again, it did come down slightly. So primarily the revenues decreased about 44,000 from last month. Basically that was tuition. We had received slightly less tuition for students than we had anticipated, but it was actually over what we had budgeted. So all is well there. One item to note is that our interest rate on our sweep account has actually come down. All interest rates have come down since the pandemic has happened, obviously. But we had a really great rate before, 1.85%. That's now 0.24%. That prompted me a few months ago to kind of look around, and it is the rate. We're probably doing better than we would if we searched for another bank. That was just my kind of informal kind of inquiries with other banks, but they all suggested that they probably could not do better. So I think our funds are fine where they are for now. Hopefully things will start to turn around in the near future. If you remember though, last year we got about $100,000 worth of interest, and that was pretty nice. That will not happen this year. As far as expenditures, the biggest area to know, our expenditures did come up pretty significantly, a couple $100,000 from last month, and that is due to a reconciliation that we do for health benefits every year around this time. If you remember, for school year employees such as teachers, we actually pay for their own health insurance benefits for a cycle that goes from September to August, so it doesn't follow the fiscal year. For the month of July and August, we always incur some kind of premium increase. This year, again, 10%. We can't budget for that, and we also can't issue contracts based on that information that we don't have yet. So we always have to reconcile that. The school district pays 100% of that increase for those 2 months, and then we catch up again. So we just made that reconciliation. Some of that will be offset next month when we actually remove any employees off of health insurance for July and August that won't be returning next year for a contract. And so next month you'll see a little bit of an offset for that, but it won't be the full amount. That's basically the biggest increase from last time you saw a financial report. Other than that, we continue to work on the facility work that was approved a couple of meetings ago now, about $350,000 worth of work. Most of that is completed or just about completed. Other than that, we are processing year-end stipends. So you might notice a couple of small adjustments in salary lines, but all stipends that we anticipated, maybe just hadn't created a position for yet in the system, and very minimal impact there. But that's pretty much it. Still projecting a $2.3 million increase, carryover at this point.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions or comments for the financial report? Well, you're making this easy on me tonight. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Moving on. Let's see. We're in other business now. New teacher hires.
So we have 3 and hopefully 4 new teachers that have been interviewed and have met with me. We have a 6th grade teacher for Swanton. We have a math teacher for MVU who will be teaching Algebra 2 and statistics. And we have an art teacher for Swanton, JC Rivers. The math teacher is Alan Zufelt, and Evan Koch is the 6th grade teacher. We also have Matthew Sniffen, who we hope to be bringing to us from Connecticut to be an ag mechanics teacher. And at this time, we're not sure whether he'll be joining us, but we certainly hope that he will be. And I enjoyed meeting with all 4 of those individuals. I think they'll be great assets to our school.
Okay, this time I'd entertain a motion to accept the new teacher hires. Terry's the first. Joanne's the second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Devin.
Julia, on that ag mechanics teacher, I know there had been some conversation at one time about potentially having to change that job description because we weren't finding applicants that kind of had the skills we were looking for. Is this the changed job description, or did we find somebody that may have the skills to fit that original goal?
Well, I have to commend Jay and the team for going far afield, looking to colleges in Connecticut to find someone to apply that has the experience to fill that position. So my hope is that he does indeed move to Vermont and accept the position, because they worked very hard to search very far for candidates. Jay, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
From a parent standpoint, I appreciate that because I have a student that was very disappointed that he missed out on that class last year. So let's hope it works out. I believe we're ready to vote. Looks to be. So all those in favor accepting new teacher hires, raise your hand.
I do.
Motion carries 7-0. Okay, committee or task force updates. And first up's board goals.
Well, we've met and done a few things. You all can help me out here, but one of the things we did come up with was the board process assessment. And I realized something while I was going to send it out to everyone, and that is that our shared board Google Docs aren't just seen by the board. So when we do that assessment, it allows, a lot of people to see it. So I'm going to talk to Julie about how we can set up a place where it's only board docs, because the same thing kind of happened with the superintendent one as well. So it's some process stuff that we need to talk about how we do that. So if that's okay with you. I'm looking at you like in this little square, like that's you. But anyway, how about the rest of the group? Anything? And then we'll get it out. But we just know that there were so many surveys out there as well. Joanne, Devin, Toby, did you all want to add anything?
I just that I think the surveys will very much help us as what to prioritize for the summer meeting. I think that's the plan. Right. I know I don't want to speak for Joanne, but I think a common theme for our group was there was just so much for us to consider, and the survey will help us prioritize. So I think if we can get 100% participation when the surveys are done to do that, it will really help our entire board. We can't tackle everything, right, but it will help us prioritize.
Great.
And Terry, I know I butted in on your committee meeting because I thought I was supposed to be there.
You were awesome.
But I did have the input on the first round, and I hope I helped. But that survey came back out again, and I thought, as you and I and Toby discussed, that maybe I should do it again or not. But I tried to do it, and I'm probably doing something wrong. But it downsizes up into the left-hand corner, and I can't move on.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. You've been our pilot program. What do you call it? The person that you've been our
Well, I did the first one. You called me an overachiever, Terry.
Okay. Well, you've been very helpful. You've helped us change a few things and look at a few things. So maybe there's some mechanics that we need to look at because we made copies trying to do other things. So I think I'll work with Julie if she has some time, or you can direct me to who to work with to kind of set that up. So we have just a board only kind of folder that we can go to. And as soon as we have that and it works, I'll send it out to you all. Okay.
Yeah, each question, if you click on a number down below, it just pops it right up at the left-hand corner of that question. Now, again, I'm probably doing something wrong. Laura will testify to that. But I was just curious if anybody else was having that problem, if they've even been into it yet.
Steve, I do know that sometimes when you're doing the survey outside of a link and you're just looking at maybe a draft or something, it won't work correctly. So, at some point when you're all ready, I'll work with Terry on making sure it's only board members can look at it. And then when you get a link, it should be a lot more straightforward. You follow the link and then let's make sure it's working properly for you.
Yeah, because it worked for me, Steve. So I might have had a different format.
I went in through the shared file, saw it there, and I tried to do it through there.
Yeah. Okay, we'll figure it out. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Toby.
Thank you, Toby.
The part about why we're doing it and why we need everyone's input.
Speaking of the summer meeting or the retreat and whatnot, that was something Julie and I have talked about a little bit is when to schedule that. We keep talking about it, but we're getting pretty close to July now. So one idea we had was to maybe cancel our first July meeting to give everyone a break, and then our regularly scheduled second meeting, have that be our retreat. But instead of starting at 6:30, maybe try to figure out some place that we can meet. Julie and I bounced a couple ideas. We're kind of waiting on availability and what the restrictions will be, but someplace we can meet in person, start early afternoon, 3-4 o'clock. I was thinking. I'm not sure other weigh-ins that people have, disagree or not, or.
Well, according to the calendar, I might be wrong, but don't we have 3 in June?
No, we only meet as in June. We meet first Tuesday and third Tuesday. It's the way it always works. Okay. And then in July is when we switch to first Tuesday and third Thursday, I believe.
Okay. I was looking at
the new fiscal year. We're switching our meeting schedule.
Okay.
Chris or Julie, relatedly, any idea if we're going to get back to in person, or I'm not rushing that or anything. I'm just kind of curious.
We want to do a hybrid. Once the state of emergency is lifted, we're going to be allowed to go back to having in-person meetings, but we also want to keep this virtual login via Google Meets for people that either it's just difficult for them to attend or don't feel comfortable attending a public space yet. Because we're hoping that maybe we'll get more parent involvement or public involvement if it's easy to log in, whereas they don't actually have to go to a meeting. And then even with board members, I know like Devin's a coach, and sometimes it might be easier just to run home and jump on the computer as opposed to driving all the way to say Swanton or something. But
I think oh boy, I'm echoing. The plan is to have an in-person July board meeting / retreat. So we keep the agenda to just, check warrants and what's essential. And we focus on having a retreat, and we do that in person. And then August, we start with our regular meetings. And from then on, we have an in-person space and a hybrid link for others who want to participate differently. Because I think we've learned a lot about increasing access that way. So we're gonna once the state, and I would say, end it, even though the state of emergency, it was supposed to end in July, but now it's probably going to be in June. I think we should still follow the criteria for our last board meeting, but then start again in person starting in July. That's the hope. And we'd like to have it somewhere fun. The retreat, I mean, not every board meeting.
One idea we had was maybe trying to see if we could do it at the Abbey. Just because if they do have an outdoor space, we're going to look into that maybe. An outdoor covered space. Of course, then if it's windy, that could be a problem. But so if you have any ideas, feel free to reach out. Let us know. When we're planning our agendas, we talk about this almost every time. So any ideas, they're welcome.
This may not be fun, but I have a big porch and stuff. We could do it here, and on the lake, we could get some, I don't know. There's a pool, there's a lake. We could make it fun. But it's an undesirable location.
Okay, I believe that's it for board goals group. So we can move on to the superintendent evaluation, which is kind of putting the cart before the horse, because that's what we're going to talk about during executive session. So I don't think there's a whole lot to add there, unless somebody else has something to add, but not seeing any. And then the facilities group, I think we have a tentative meeting for June 8th to meet to go over the presentation from EEI and start digging into that. It's been difficult to find a date that works for everyone. So I think we've nailed down a date, and then once we meet, we'll have, at our next meeting, we should have a lot more to tell. Let's see, with that, our next meeting is June 15th, 6:30, which will also be held virtually. And we've already had our discussion about the July retreat, possibly on, let's see, July 20th would have been our scheduled meeting date. And at this time, I would entertain a motion, unless somebody else has something to add, to go into executive session for superintendent evaluation and an employee contract matter. And for the employee contract matter, we'd invite in Julie.
Chris, can I just ask a question on the so superintendent evaluation? I'm a little bit worried because there's two board members not here. Like, is this going to be, we're going to be completing it tonight, or? Oh,
no, this is going to be the our ability to discuss it as a group. Gotcha. And then it'll get moved on to Devin and myself to then have a discussion with superintendent.
Okay.
Okay, so Terry.
I'll make the motion.
Terry's the first. Devin's the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of going into executive session at 8:16, raise your hand.
I do.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Good night, everyone.